Hi, my name is Gudrun from GE Designs, and I'd like to introduce you to the third ruler in the Stripology series called the Stripology Squared Mini by Creative Grids. The Stripology Squared Mini Ruler is a smaller version of the popular Stripology Squared Ruler, specifically designed to work with smaller pieces of fabrics and scraps. It can be used to cut fat eighths or fat quarters into strips if only a few are needed. In that case, we would just start with a piece of fabric, this case a fat eighth. You want to make sure you fold it in half, and then you want to bring that bottom fold over the raw edges again, so now you have two folds going on. We're going to bring the ruler over, and just like the other two Stripology rulers, when we want to find the zero line to align the bottom fold with, and then make sure that our top fold is parallel to a line above here. And then you're going to make your cuts. There are a few shortcuts included in this ruler. You have the stars every 1.5 inches to indicate the 1.5 inch strip cut. So you always start going through the zero, and then you can cut your strips accordingly. Now this ruler has increment markings for an 1/8 inch increment and a 3/8 increment. This is for whenever you need to cut a strip that is in those units, you will just add that to your measurements. For example, if you need a strip that is cut at 2 7/8, you find your 2.5 inch mark, and then you add 3/8 to that. That will give you 2 7/8. For example, if I going to cut that strip, I'm going to line up that cut clean edge with the 3/8 inch marking here on the ruler, and I will add that to the 2.5. That will give me a 2 7/8 inch wide strip. Same thing, if I needed to cut that into squares, I would start by aligning the zero line on the bottom of the strip, make a cut through the zero to clean off my edges, and then move the ruler to the right so it's aligned with a 3/8 inch increment, and make my cut through the 2.5. That will give me a 2 7/8 inch square. When cutting in 1/4 inch increments, the ruler has a turnaround feature, so we're going to just turn it around, and you have the 1/4 inch increments on this side. Same thing, because we're not going to line it up with the first slit. The zero is a dotted line here 1/4 inch from the slit. So if I were to cut, needing to cut a 1/4 inch increment square, let's say I'm going to cut a 3 3/4 inch square. I want to just line up the edge of the fabric with my 1/4 inch line here, which is our zero. And then I just go right into 3 3/4, that particular slit, go right through. I turn my piece, line it up again, and go through the same. And you have a 3 3/4 inch square ready to go. Just like the original Stripology Squared ruler, the mini ruler is specifically designed to square up blocks. But in this case, the largest block you're going to be able to square with this one is a 6.5 inch block. And just like the squared ruler, we are using black lines for squaring up whole inch sizes, and then white lines for squaring up 1/2 inch sizes. Let me give you an example. We are going to square up this half square triangle down to a 6 inch square. So we find our 6 inch square right here. We go up on the left side, find the numbering, and there's our black square. We're going to center that right on our unit that we're trimming. And each square has a diagonal line going through it both ways. Black lines here going diagonally down. So we're going to line that right with the seam of the block. And then we're just going to go through our zero slit and through our 6 inch slit. Remove our little trimmed slivers, turn our block, and then we're going to repeat again. Now that we have two sides trimmed, we can align the bottom line with the cut edge here and then find that diagonal line straight on the seam. And we go through the 0 and the 6, and you have a perfectly squared up 6-inch half square triangle. When trimming 1/2-inch sizes, you're going to be using the white squares that start in the middle and extend out. For example, I'd like to trim this 1/4 square triangle into a 5.5-inch square. So I will just lay that on my cutting mat. I will find my 5.5, which is up here. You'll see that the white is on the bottom. The other sides are 5.5 because it runs into another side. But we're just going to aim for the diagonal white lines, line that up with the seams. And then with a 5.5-inch square, we're going to find the two corners, go down, and we're going to be cutting through the 1/2-inch slit and the 6-inch slit. Make those two cuts. Turn our block and repeat. We have the 5.5-inch line here on the bottom that we can easily find our spot again, making sure that the diagonal lines are on the seams, and repeat our cuts through this 1/2-inch and the 6, and we have a perfectly squared up 1/4 square triangle. Whenever working with charm squares, many patterns tell us to cut them apart, or any other pattern if you cut squares and then you need to cut them apart into triangles. I made that a little bit easy with the Stripology Mini Ruler. There are extended white dotted lines coming out from each corner here. And this is specifically designed for that. So I have some charm squares, and I like to cut them in half. I find that those white lines, and I can just align them on the bottom of the square here and cut through the 0 to cut them apart. This way the square is stabilized underneath the ruler. And why I include it on both sides, I feel it's more comfortable to use the left side for left-handed people, and then if you're right-handed, it's easier to use the right side. The ruler is great for squaring up embroidery blocks and also for fuzzy cutting fabrics if you want to play with placement of different motifs. For instance, I would like this little sloth to be in the center of my 2.5-inch square for a block. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find my 2.5-inch square right here on the ruler, the white square in the middle, and all I have to do is center that right on top of my sloth. I see that I have center lines going right through the middle as well as the diagonal, so I can just place that right in the middle of my sloth, and then again find the slits that extend down from the size I'm cutting. Make my two cuts, turn my little square, and then repeat the action again on the other side. This makes it really easy to see where you need an extra seam allowance and where your motif is going to be placed within the block. So there he is.